and Helena, Jaczek, good to have you both here. I appreciate you making the time. Mr. Housefather, did you see this coming? How surprised were you in how hard are you taking the news that Chrystia Freeland quit in the way she did and saying what she did?
I'm taking it very hard because I've been close to Chrystia since 2015. I thought she was an extraordinary foreign affairs minister. She was a great trade minister. She led us on the USMCA negotiations. And in terms of what she said today, I've, as Vassy, as you know, I've long had policy differences with the government. I've long been calling for a more centrist, fiscally responsible government. And for her to say that she didn't support some of the things that were in the Fez because she was pushed to not be as financially prudent as she thought was the best idea, given the current situation with the United States. And it was very hard to hear. And all my support goes to Chrystia. It is sad for me to see that she felt that she was being pushed out of a role that I think she excelled in, and it was difficult.
Ms. Jaczek, I see you nodding as Mr. Housefather is describing how hard this is. What can you tell us about your reaction to this?
Well, very much like Anthony, I've known Chrystia since I was a provincial member in Ontario, and we had joint caucus meetings at that point with the Liberal caucus. I think it goes back to about 2014. And I've always had the greatest respect for Chrystia, and seeing her since I became a member of Parliament here, just like Anthony, great deal of respect, good consultation with caucus in terms of what she was proposing in each of her portfolios. So it was a real shock this morning to hear the news.
So I saw you, Mr. Housefather, post on social media asking for a national caucus. And for everyone watching, basically that's a request for every Liberal MP to come together for a meeting. What's happening on that front?
So my understanding is we will have one.
Okay.
And I think this is very clear. We've reached a precipice. We've reached a precipice with respect to the Prime Minister's leadership. We've reached a precipice with respect to the direction of the party. I think Chrystia sort of forced that through what she did today. And that overall decision of where we go when we're about to embark on the most important negotiations with the United States we've ever had, when we're months away from a federal election, has to be made by the entire caucus, not just by a small group of people around the leader. And I felt it was absolutely important that we all gather. We all saw what happened this summer when there was a by-election in St. Paul's and there was a request for a caucus meeting and it didn't happen for months. This needs to happen now, and people at least have to have their say. And I feel very strongly about that.
Do you think the Prime Minister should resign?
Yes.
Why?
I had asked him to do so a couple of months ago. I had written to him. I'd said it at caucus. I think at this point, most Canadians are fiscally prudent and socially liberal. They see the Conservative Party as strayed far to the right. They feel the Liberal Party is strayed far to the left. And if the Prime Minister remains, I believe he is the ballot question. Every Canadian, before they ask anything else, will be saying, do I want Justin Trudeau to stay Prime Minister or not? And through a lot of issues internationally, right? You all see governments are unpopular. Incumbents have a certain shelf life in social media age. I believe the Prime Minister has passed that shelf life. And I think that for Canadians to have a real choice on the table in terms of things that they will go beyond just saying, did they want him to be Prime Minister or not, we need to have a different leader with a different vision for the Liberal Party to be viable in the next election.
Ms. Jaczek, I'll ask the same question of you. Do you think the Prime Minister should resign?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I have been observing what has been transpiring both in Parliament and within caucus over the last several months. And as you know, I was here on your show to say that I felt a secret ballot in terms of the leadership of the Prime Minister was important to clear the air, to have people express their feelings about his leadership and what was being achieved. I'm a loyal Liberal. I wouldn't be here as a member of Parliament if I weren't. And what I have been observing is that we are not able to bring Liberal policies forward in a constructive manner I was hoping we would be working on a future platform for the next election, where we would be discussing how we want to help Canadians and move forward. And that simply has not been occurring. Parliament is all tied up, as you know. We haven't had the opportunity for that kind of good discussion within caucus about the way forward.
Mr. Housefather, you referenced a couple of months ago, right, when there were other members of caucus who put forward, at the time even, a concern about the Prime Minister's leadership. Obviously, he was able at that point to withstand it. I imagine you've had other conversations today with your fellow MPs in the Liberal Party. What is your sense of where they sit? Like, is there additional pressure given Chrystia Freeland, of all people, saying what she did today?
Well, I mean, again, I think we're at a precipice right now, and I think people will need to make decisions. I know what I hear from my constituents. I've heard it for a very long time. It's gotten ramped up and ramped up even more. And I know that for the vast majority of my constituents I hear from, they want to be able to vote Liberal. They would prefer he not be the leader of the party at this point. And I really believe that the rest of caucus now needs to seriously reflect on the message that Chrystia gave today. They need to seriously reflect on where we are in the polls, right? The Prime Minister's negatives are minus 37. Not at zero, but minus 37. And whether or not we like it, that's just a fact. And we're more than 20 points behind in the polls. Whether people like it or not, that's a fact. We're not going to simply convince everybody we ran a great government for the last 3 years by just repeating it. I think people want to see actual change. And I think we have a choice right now. We're at a precipice. We either make the change or we don't.
There have been people in your caucus, Ms. Jaczek, who did relay that message to the Prime Minister over the last number of months. They weren't Chrystia Freeland. Does the fact that it is Chrystia Freeland today, do you think necessitate, I guess, more consideration from the Prime Minister himself?
I think as we both started off in this session with you today, Vassy, is that people have a great deal of respect for Chrystia Freeland. And the way she structured her letter this morning in terms of the challenges that our country is facing with Trump, obviously, and the potential for those 25% tariffs, with the need for leadership with the premiers in terms of a Team Canada approach. Those are really crucial. And having Chrystia at the table, I would have thought was obviously a huge asset in terms of furthering those particular challenges that we're facing. And the truth is that in my riding, when I'm there, I get the message all the time. I'm just not even listening to you guys anymore because the Prime Minister just doesn't represent what I want to see in a leader.
Mr. Housefather, what do you is the Prime Minister expected to be at this caucus, or any of his staff expected to be at this caucus this afternoon? What can you share with us on that?
I have no idea. That would be a question that National Caucus Chair would need to know. I just know that I intend to be there, and I intend to reconvey the message that I gave in October, which is that I believe we need a leadership change. And I hope this time the Prime Minister will take this with the greatest of seriousness. I think the message from Minister Freeland today was a clarion call. And it was a clarion call not only to me and to the Prime Minister, but to all members of caucus, that we can sit back and we can do nothing and just allow history to carry us to a very bad election result on election night, or we can make the changes that Canadians would like to see in the Liberal Party, including a leadership change that would allow us to convey a real message to Canadians where they want a change, and they'll have a choice of voting for Mr. Poilievre's change, which I don't think most Canadians would want to go down that path if they had another choice, and a Liberal change.
Do you stay on as a Liberal MP if the Prime Minister refuses to quit?
I plan to stay as a Liberal MP. I was elected as a Liberal MP, and we had this conversation in March. And I really believe that my place is pushing for the type of centrist Liberal Party that I believe in. I've very much disagreed with our votes on Israel at the United Nations. I very much disagreed with certain fiscal measures. But I have a voice at the table, and sometimes I've been able to succeed, like the $65 million in security funds for our religious institutions, for example. The listing of Samadun as a terrorist organization. There are times that you being there makes a difference, and I intend to keep trying to make that difference.
And I'm not trying to take away from that. I guess the genesis of my question is, you feel so strongly today that the Prime Minister should quit that you're on national TV saying so. How does it remain tenable for you to stay if he remains as leader?
I think you've had multiple of my colleagues that have called for him to go for a long time.
A lot of them aren't running.
A number of them are. A number of them are. And you've had in the past, when Jean Chrétien was leader, you had people call for him to leave. Look, it's not a pleasant thing, and it's not something that I did lightly. There's been a sense of frustration for quite a while. But I think today, we're getting down to the wire here. And if we're going to make this change, it has to be now. If not, I will just work on my riding and do my best. But I feel that we could do way better for Canadians and for ourselves if we recognize that leaders have a certain shelf life. That's why you have term limits for President of the United States. The Prime Minister's been there for 10 years, and in his social media age, you rarely age that well.
Ms. Jaczek, Dominic LeBlanc, my understanding is going to be sworn in as finance minister in about 14 minutes' time up at Rideau Hall. Does that make any difference to you that they are moving forward in that way?
Well, I think we were all expecting the fall economic statement. I think we need to see that. We all have a great deal of respect for Dominic LeBlanc and his abilities, of course. But I want to just pick up on something that Anthony said. One thing we're totally united on is we need to defeat Pierre Poilievre in the next election. There is total unity with that. And to do that, what our constituents are basically telling us is that they want to see a new leader for the Liberal Party.
Do you believe, as the Prime Minister has conveyed to the people around him, that it could still be won in a campaign because he's a good campaigner, because they intend to expose, quote unquote, the reality of what the Conservatives present? Do you think what they have told you they can accomplish is at all possible with the Prime Minister in that position?
I think one of the issues, we all know that the Prime Minister has been a great campaigner during elections. The problem at the moment is that he's surrounded by security. There have been some very unpleasant incidents, of course. I think it's going to be perhaps very difficult if he were to stay on to exhibit those campaigning strengths that he has demonstrated in the past.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Is there anything else either of you want to add before we go? No? Thank you very much for making the time. I appreciate it. Anthony Housefather and Helena Jaczek.